世间所有的相遇，都是久别重逢。
清风明月如怀抱。
In the AI era or age, right? Age of AI, banking needs to change, right? In the market, they're looking for small fintech vendors like me, right? Running a business not big yet, so have the flexibility as well, the in-depth AI expertise, right? And especially been doing this 30, 40 years, right? Actually knows the trade, knows the industry, okay? Knows the business, technology, and the challenges, the problems. So, and I feel the need when I talk to the banking executives or senior leaders or subject matter experts on the ground, right? Some of the slogans, like AI native banking, right? It is slightly far-fetched in my opinion, right? Like IBM can put some local first kind of slogan, right? And if you talk to Deloitte, talk to PwC, they all claim they have successfully done AI agentic work, collaborating with this bank, that bank. I mean, this is all true, right? And false, right? It is too kind of like you do a little hello world project, you go to a conference, you talk for 3 minutes, right? And that's it, right? To me, that's almost useless, but one group of vendors love to do that, right? They keep doing it, and they're very successful because the you have to understand the level of expertise in AI, even from the banking side. They're not ready, right? And AI is not ready either, right? Doesn't matter how senior you used to be, like a consultant or CEO, CIO, doesn't matter, you wear very impressive titles. But in front of AI, the new start, new set, right? New reset. It is hard to brag years of experiences because AI is so young, right? But again, those experience that you have been living through, right? Leading the corporation, deliver projects, right? Burning through the days and nights, with clients, solving problems on the floor, right? That counts, right? Because really you're dealing with human, you're dealing with the business. And lastly, you're dealing with technology again, but in a new twist, new strategic way is required. Like, my strength is belong to the other camp of the vendors, right? Or business, fintechs, doesn't matter, right? I'm not entirely focusing on the AI part. There are other line of business and products, right? IPs, innovations, right? I am tending to deliver results, right? I'm very conservative in drawing a big pie in the sky, right? And get the contract, and then kind of screw it and then move on. That's never been my style, right? I don't, against my heart, right? But in any case, fintech firms, the business owners like me, not popular in a way, right? You're not eager to please the clients, the buyer, right? But how many buyers have the time to listen to the real thing about AI, right? They're all looking for a quick promotion or career move, right? Get a few demos and go to, again, his boss's office, impress, put on a resume or LinkedIn. That's it. That's all they need to do or want to do, right? How many people really want to do AI, right? How many people knows what the risks are? Not many, really. Not even the top consultants, right? Like from McKinsey, from BCJ, really can give you a credible recommendation, right? Because none of them really been doing it like I am, right? I've been doing it day and night for like at least 5 years, right? Initially with machine learning data, right? Building data lakes, products, then getting the machine learning for recommendation for all kind of credit risk, customer profile, pricing, profile, portraiting, right? This kind of things burning through, AI catch on later on. That's a blessing, right? I see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Because except a true leader like me, who in the battleground can command troops, right? Can lead through business, technology like AI, banking, and regulatory with interdisciplinary qualifications. You might have a very smooth, speaker, orator, right? Very impressive, but those people will not give you a real strategy or roadmap, right? So, what is going on? Let me just check the battery. Really down to earth, right? My approach is build a business because that is really it's going to be the new way of serving the no matter banks, government agencies, or hospitals, or manufacturers, right? Pharmaceuticals, right? The large consulting firms quickly ran out of favor, right? Because they cannot really deliver much other than what is going on? Oh, okay, it's actually better. The battery is charging. So we're taking the banking that everybody understands as example, right? Then we're going to dive into the medicals and clinics and hospitals, right? Hospitality, maybe lawyering, right? I'll probably use my law office as example, right? How do you really embrace AI? Okay. Our overall goal is pretty clear. We're in a journey to redefine the human, right, and ontology for business and the world, new worlds, new financial ecosystem, if you will, right? Unless it is sometimes it's out of luck, right? Because majority of them who are making decisions don't pay attention to this, right? They are very rushed in the short sprint, kind of getting a promotion or something, right? But in any case, hopefully it could come across some clients who really sincerely want to save the bank, right? Because frankly speaking, some banks will just run out of business or significantly downsized, right? Or be kind of acquired through sort of merger, right? In a name, right? Being broken down and then cutting apart and sell off, right? Think about those employees, right? Think of the impact to many people's lives, right? I mean, if I can do it a small part, you know, even benefit some people, this is more than just, you know, making a quick dollar, right? That is my principle, right? But again, I'm not the popular kind of vendors, right, or businesses. And my product tends to be, you know, very solid, but not very flashy, right? I don't promise a lot and deliver nothing. I rather deliver a lot, you know, give credit to others, right? To me, you know, it's okay as long as we have a long-term relationship, right? So more like, you know, my style, not the best popular style, right? So in this, my proposal is that, you know, overall, right, capture it as a banking AI safe transformation roadmap. That's what I propose, right? I'll try to avoid using AI native banking, right? So what it is that safe stands for, right? It's sovereign agentic AI, okay? Framework and enabler, right? A foundation and enablement, no matter you play the words, right? But essentially emphasize risk first, right? And you need to have clear return on investment, right? You have to articulate and prove it, in my opinion, right? You have to have a roadmap, right? You have to follow, you know, a 5-stage, in my opinion. Enable first, right? Build a foundation, make sure you allocate the resources, right? Build up the business cases. So it's more like an enablement. Enable the executives to embrace, fully understand the challenges, right? Cannot be too long, but part of the initial strategic consulting, right? The second is yeah, we'll get into that, right? It also entails sort of you build up the foundational infrastructure, right? Like you're going to run it locally, but doesn't mean you have to run in your own kind of on-prem your data center. You could do that, obviously, right? But if you prefer to run on managed cloud, right, I would have to collaboratively build it up for you, right? At least have the blueprint for you, that you can assess the cost, you know, and go through the security and bring the contractual stuff through onboard the vendors, right? Unless you already have that. The second is the data, right? Without data is no AI, okay? The data pipelines, data guardrails. I used to build this data warehouse, you name it, right? Master data, data lakes, all sorts of data capacities, right? Those are the fundamentals, right? Digital transformation is been leading there for over 10 years, right? But then I have to propose some sort of quick wins for you, because otherwise you cannot sustain the executive funding, right? That is the nature of the trade, right? The business. Okay. This takes half a year or so, right? I would before that, I would say, you know, if I take a step back, it takes a bit of engagement first, right? Not sure what is the right word, right? Maybe engage, right? Maybe educate. Educate sounds a little arrogant when you educate home, right? Just engage, right? You need to really connect, right? On the same, you have to go through a strategic consulting, right? And that's what I mean, engage, right? Figure out the partnership, right? Build it up, like, how we're going to work together, right? But see, then you get into the three major stage, right? The second is embed, right? Agentic workflow you need to build up in, doesn't matter, core banking, capital market, wealth management, doesn't matter. You need to fine-tune the domain models, right? Departmental integration, business ontology. You have to evolve that. That will be phase 3, right? Federated enterprise, kind of agentic AI ecosystem, right? Autonomous operation, embedded risk parameters, right? Explainability reports, traceability for auditors, for these regulators, right? All sorts of stuff, right? I call those enablers, right? Framework enablers, right? Or foundation and enable. It doesn't matter what word you use, same thing, right? Depends on which perspective you're looking at the same thing, right? So, lastly, you need to evaluate. You said, every week evaluate or every month evaluate. You have to have that. It's iterative, right? So, say engage, right? Enable, embed into the actual business processes, pipelines, domains, workforces, and then evolve, then evaluate, right? It's what I call the typical, like look at your fingers. I make it simple, right? So, except you take, Sundays, Saturdays, 5 days, right? Each step take a day, right? It's, pretty simply, right? Easier to manage, say that, right? But simple, but when I try to articulate it, the receiving part, unless you've been through some training or been thinking through or been using AI for a bit, but it's hard for them to register because most of them take AI as a new technology. AI is really not a technology. It will become part of your business model, that fabric. That's why we call AI native banking. For a good reason, right? But how long going to take it to become a native, right? You first of all must have to transform, alliance and using AI to empower them, right? So that's what I'm going to spend quite a significant time to prepare this engage part, just to simplify, save the client's time, right? But it is hard to put a price on this kind of engage, right? I would call it education, but you kind of should not do that because they are executives or senior leaders or experts, right? Do not take that word if I say education, right? But another view, I need to educate myself, right? Learn from them, what they're looking for, what level are they in the spectrum of adoption of the AI, So I have my platform already. I use it for my business, right? It's MaicroStudio, right? That's where you could use it for these 5 phases, right? Specifically, the multi-cloud environment, the data pipelines, right? Data engineering, right? Using AI for sure, right? And of course, build up the business ontology, the federated data model or data lakes, right? Whatever you need, feature stores if you need, all sorts of data bias, right? And drifting of the model. How do you provide explainability? How do you rectify it? Then matter is retrain, build up the knowledge base, RAG. It's all, it is not only just, a simple technology. It's a lot of engineering involved. Like when people try to say, I want to do vibe coding and use Copilot, do an agent, it doesn't really give you much, right? You have to understand why you take that approach. So what problem? What's your goal, really? Okay. You have to understand those strategy lock you in, right? And also you have to pay for those tokens. It's quite expensive, and also not so flexible as the marketing material telling you, right? It is quite rigid, right? The way they do AI agent, it doesn't matter you use Copilot or anything, right? You need naturally have to have a strategy to do vendor selection, build a suite. You have to take control, right? Doesn't matter how many vendors, like multi-cloud, right? If you depend on one vendor, you'll be locked in pretty soon. The price will go through the roof, and they will take the control, right? Simply, everyone knows this kind of risk, right? And also, the selection will be closed AI models, foundational, or framework, or open. I'll prefer open. That's why I say local first. You need to take control. That's why I call it sovereign, right? You have to understand what you're doing. Risk aversion, right? You have to mitigate your risks, protect yourself, right? It is the regulation, the compliance, and the AI part is not up to date, right? If you got into trouble, who's going to save you? Nobody, right? The government will punish you, right? Have a big fine, you lose your reputation, a lot of risks. You might lose your job, right? Doesn't matter how senior you are. Think of the early days of digital transformation, right? How many executives got into building data lake and got fired, right? It's not so easy to get it right? Same thing here. You might think, oh, I got a success, 3 months, good story to tell, but then you got caught up, right? It's not a glory for you. It's quite a very bad thing on your name, right? What do? You leave the job, run to next bank. You have to really watch out, right? Those people appear to be your friend, but initially, give you a lot of good words, right? Praising you, and it is really your enemy. I would say that it's going to damage you. This is doing AI, right? It's not a simple technology. It's part of your business, the future, right? It is a force, right? It has huge potential. You really have to understand it, right? And whoever is lucky to see me talking and reach out, probably you're going to save your, least, not only money, maybe your job, right? But in any case, so save money, many millions for your bank, right? But in any case, in a roadmap, think of 18 months or 2 years, that's my charting is based on the results, right? And but we need to engage, make sure that we negotiate clearly, right? We do evaluation weekly, right? See where we are, So the bottom line is funding needs to be sustained through the immediate operational efficiency, right? To some quick win, laying impregnable groundwork for the autonomous banking ecosystem, right? We need to marching forwards with result every step, right? This was a three phase, right, or whatever you call it, but I put it into 5 more kind of practical, right? What do we mean ROI, right? The high impact business cases, right? I put 5, if you will. The finance part, reconciliation, obviously AI can do a wonder fire, right? The LLM is able to take in a lot of previously hard to integrate those data points in, right? Easily, right? Transcribe and making sense, semantic modeling will kick in. The data language model, the large language model is good for that, right? Maybe 1.5 million, you're going to see 40% reduction, right? I'm pretty sure you have such cases, taking existing product and turn it into AI, right? Let me run it for you, or you collaborate, relatively put it through. It's going to really give you a good name with good results, right? That can hardly go wrong, right? Been doing that, right? The second will be regulatory compliance, right? Slightly bigger budget, but again, you can automate a lot of, for example, AI-related model risks, right? Like OSFI 23, E23, right? Compliance that in Canada, the US, there are comparable, and Europe, depends on where you operate, right? You need to comply with multiples, right? But the Canadian one is much mature in a way, right? The very conservative one, right? Evolvement from the previous machine learning, model, risk modeling, right? It's quite, we need to make sure that can push out quickly in open banking part as well, right? A lot of regulations come up. Then number three, slightly, again, maybe double that, right? It's going to be huge impact. You see 50% increase in terms of the savings, we need multi-year agent. We have to build it up, the foundation for you, which is why I call it sovereign agentic AI, safe kind of approach, right? That's what I advocate, right? So if you look at the equation, right, put in the matrix, so how feasible they are, they're all pretty feasible. What is the ROI? They're pretty high, right? What is really high, but not so feasible, right, in a way, right? It is a new approach, asset token, if you want wealth management. Large banks been doing that, but if you have appetite, could also show you. Have the mature asset token systems, you can use it right away, or you can pay for the license, or you can do it yourself, use my as a base, right? Then another one, let's say the treasury, right? It's relatively hard to mobilize it, but it's going to pretty high return, liquidity, right? The modeling, foreign exchange, capital markets, right? The currency, especially the crypto part coming in, right? The yields on return, it is a lot of liquidity will be kind of liberated, You're going to see really a huge result, but it's not so easy to mobilize, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 especially pretty easy, higher return, ROI, right? This is within 18 months. If you extend into 2 years, I'd really recommend, consider 3, 4, 5, especially 5. It will give you really a long way to sustainable high growth, right? Really huge returns, right? It's going to give you a huge promotion from a CIO, maybe become a CEO, right, in some banks, right? So that's the direct benefit, right? You can measure it week by week, right? Probably every 3 months we could look at the number, right? See what is in the books, right? And especially AI is really, the tokens, you can calculate it, right? And what is the result, you can also see, right? It's not that hard. Now, the architecture, right? I'll dig deeper, but essentially, simplify that, it's more like decentralized. It's multi-agent control, right? Use also V2A, protocol to enable the MCP skills, Pretty simply, you need to plug in a lot of logical enterprise system through and tools, right? Your existing tools, right? That's what MCP is for. Skills more run within that, but you have to adapt and survey, right? But I have my corresponding technology. You don't have to embrace a locked-in or proprietary thing. But the open source, you can also use it, right? And the latest open cloud, but who can demonstrate the open cloud in enterprise environment? It's not easy, right? A lot of security concerns, right? But the way they do it, right? The memory management, overall architecture, evaluation, the multi-agent collaboration, it's quite impressive, right? I'm thinking on that. I might do a little enterprise version of it, right? But it has to be in a contained environment to run it, right? So the ingress layer, right? Okay, the service containers like in Google and the Mario IAP. There's a Google capacity, right? orchestration, you might use the number AWS, right, or Microsoft. It's going to be multi-cloud environment, domain-specific sub-agents, right? Explicitly focus on one small task. You allow the human in the loop for sure, right? So that's overall very simple, right? You have a control plane, right, and you use the protocol. It is in a simple way, but I not going to put on YouTube. Later on, we're going to see that, right? So we have to build the platform, as I said, right? Solve it on premise, right? That what you control. No data is going out of your firewall, right? Your managed domain zones, right? The multi-cloud, distributed balance, executing agility, serving, GCP, data, Azure, some employee, you use intra, AWS, a lot of analysis, analytics, right? Data lakes, right? They have agent call, DynamoDB, right? Azure have Copilot, they have the Foundry, GPT, right? You have VPCs, you can make it really secure. On GCP, you have Vortex AI agent, right? They have all sorts of, if you want coding, like Anthropic have Codex, right? Sorry, the Cloud Code, and OpenAI has some offers. It's a lot of choices, but how we piece it together, for the solvent agentic AI kind of framework enabler, a foundation enablement, that's the art, right? So why this matters? Because, this sovereign AI infrastructure takes a bit to build it up front. You need to invest a bit, right? But I showed her a lot of risks for you, right? Really give you a huge advantage because I've been doing it for other banks, right? So it's going to be 30 to 50% operational savings over 3 years. That's almost guaranteed, right? And you compare to use the closed AI, the API, a lot of tokens. Well, you're going to pay at least double what I offering you here, right? Over the long run, maybe more, right? So you're going to see that, right? Because each and every token cost you, right? Each every release, license, everything's cost you. That's why I, prefer to build it up for you, right? Make it more like your stuff, right? Make it at least at, first of all, risk. You have to control that, mitigate that, right? So, yeah, if you think about it, you need to build up the pipeline, right? Anchor the autonomous decision in verifiable truth, right? Depends on where you are in terms of the digitization, right? You need to ingest a lot of data that I can build quickly some sort of lake house, lake infrastructure for you. You need to sanitize it, cleanse it, using AI, that's what I mean, right? PI data has to be treated differently, secured differently, right? APIs, whatever you use internally, right? You have to have proper data protection, how do you safeguard the traffic on the wire, right? Those, assuming you know that, but how do you get into the AI? You need to use embedding, right? High dimensional vectors, right? And then you have vector databases, store all kind of, you have to enforce some sort of rule, based permissions. How do you authenticate, authorize? You need to align with, the business ontology. You need to build it up, right? And bind models will help you to do that, right? Compliance. Then largely, you need to build a very performant rack system, right? Rather than just fine-tuning it. We're building it. Fine-tuning is part of it, right? So, but we might have to start with a base model, right? So the retrieval augmented generation rack for sure dramatically reduce hallucination risks by grounding AI responses closely in your traceable enterprise data. We emphasize the evidence-based grounded kind of local first, sovereignty, right? Sovereign agentic AI, right? You know, it can be long-winded, but essentially it got it's for your benefit, right? It may cost you a little more initially, but you see the long-term benefit. Not too long, within a year, you're going to see it's a better path, right? So obviously, we advocate a heterogeneous model ecosystem, avoid critical single vendor dependency. But again, I showed a lot of, to demonstrate quickly we need to embrace them, but later on we'll plug in whatever we develop in-house, right? I would say open weight models is a better bet, but again, we have to wear the sanction part, right? How we're going to deal with it, right? There are a lot of open source models in America and in Canada as well, right? I have it as well. So, but you have a choice. You have a lot of choice, in fact, right? But initially, you might have to use Cloud 3.5 or GPT for a quick sort of demo kind of product, right? To prove it works, right? Framework, long graph, right? A lot of AutoGen, a lot of choices as well. So what is FIBO? It's Financial Industry Business Ontology. That's what we're going to base on, combined with, the IBM foundational model we built for so many years. Not strictly, but, have to simplify that for the domain, selected domain, not boil the ocean, right? The ontology is a critical piece, as part of what I call private operating system. BAN is a banking industry architecture network. You have a lot of APIs, microservices. It's going to help you, and also lean towards the regulation and AI part, right? FIBO plus BAN, it becomes the semantic core. I also have quite mature products, if you will, but we need to adaptively build it out for you, right? Rather than selling the product, I sell the result. You can see it. You'll be on it, but in the process, you have to pay for that building, right? And I have to train people for you, right? Not like once I leave in 2 years, you don't know how to run it. You should fully pick it up, right? So part and parcel of the engagement as we negotiate the contract stuff, right? It's training some people for you, right? You will take over, Initially I will drive for you, but later on you have to be in the driver's seat. I will just give you advice and later on transfer to you, right? So the dynamic inspection layers for strict regulatory guardrail, that's what we'll keep emphasizing, right? Risk management is number one, right? We have the mandate rigorous data lineage, lifecycle control, right? User from Google model, ARMOR, VPC, IC, blocks, public internet, there's all kind of things, you have your own infrastructure, I believe, right? Akamai probably sitting in front of everything, right? What is that word? White list, right? Then what is, you have to enforce the customer managed encryption, all sorts of open API, all kind of OS3, LLM core databases. You have to log in strictly, right? So a lot of stuff we have to go through gradually, day by day. It may take me a month to talk through, but maybe like hundreds of hours. You can selectively chip in, listen in, ask questions directly, right? But just in case, whoever your SMEs or some leaders, they want to chip in, evaluate me, right? Feel free to go through the content, right? It's quite lengthy, but very credible, right? Maybe take you years to accumulate and get through, but it's a quick jump kind of dose of training, right? Quickly, dumping into your brain, if you will, right? Navigating the hidden operating risks and architecture trade-offs, right? The human elements, right? The stories, IBM, Klarna, they all failed, right? They try to replace some service stuff that caused severe damage, right? And they have to call them back, right? That's why when any consultant, doesn't matter from whichever, the BCJ, what kind of PwC, they say, well, I can web coding, I'm using an AI agent to revolutionize your bank. Just ask them to go right away, okay? That's not true, not ready yet, okay? You're going to add more risk than anything else, right? You're going to really do yourself a huge mistake, right? Data quality, like IBM, they use synthetic data and simulated data. It's garbage in, garbage out, obviously catastrophic, right? We all know that, right? That's why I keep saying that I need to build up the data part for you based on the cloud infrastructure, right? Security first, local first, right? Zero trust. If you don't have quality data, you cannot expect to return good result, right? Then the RAG and fine-tuning is a debate, right? In us, those synthesized together, integrated, right? So because we are building, right? And we build ontology as well to enable really enterprise scale, enterprise caliber RAG, right? Not just a simple RAG, right? So it's proven. So the AI native engineering shapes focus on the syntax, architectural design, right? Coding is the one part we do demo, right? But also quality control part, testing, requirement collection, right? Monitoring, right? The report. A lot of places if you look for that. If it is local, then obviously you save millions, right away, right? But I'll show you that. If you're afraid of the sanction stuff, I have my models you can use, right? But again, you have to pay, right? Not paid for license, pay like I build it up for you, right? It's like, future application is self-healing. Example, autonomous reconciliation. It is natively inferring that shorthand memo maps to 3 distinct invoices without manual mapping rule. That's what the power of language model, right? Semantic. So put it simply, it's more like a 3-stage, right? Secure the funding, pick a couple cases, right? We call quick wins, low hanging fruit, has 30, 40, 50% ROI return, right? Within 18 months or within a year, depends on the size and effort. Your appetite to go, or you pick a slightly more challenging one, would have higher returns, the long-term benefits for the bank, right? Your appetite, right? Tell me. And then a lot of mistakes I will drag you through, right? For example, agent war, you create a lot of agents, right? Doesn't really help you much, right? Adding more risks. That's what I keep saying. Right? In truth, the deployment utilizes the true dynamic reasoning rather than just rebranding the legacy rule-based automation, right? That's I've been iterating. But, it's not easy to really get it unless you failed a couple times, right? The workforce redemption, right? That's the key, right? I have macro bankers, mature, not all to say mature, but pretty functional products, right? To risk managers, right? The QE stuff, right? The engineer part, right? The reporting part, right? The reconciliation part, as I mentioned, right? And the existing products, right? But again, you have to plug into your AI, right? Your private operating system, right? Immediate execution. I would say that quick wins will give you some taste, and can give you some leverage, mileage to sustain that executive approval budget, right? So that's required. Okay. This is for the you have to mobilize your subordinates, the teams, right? And also taking care of that, right? I'll try to give them AI-powered career path, if you will, right? Take them along, right? We are not trying to replace the human experts here. We just, bring them up to the ladder, right? Grow together, be part of the success, right? So they are reckoning in financial services, right? Predictable analysis used to be, isolated chatbots or voice agent. It's past, right? Now we're looking at autonomous AI agent. We used to have, robotic automation, right? There's also the POS, right? You have to really get rid of those, right? The industry is undergoing a systematic paradigm shift, right? So we are moving beyond siloed proofs of concept into interconnected multi-agent systems capable of autonomous execution. I mean, on a personal AI side, if you look at the OpenClaw, it's quite powerful, right? And if you use it directly into the enterprise, this is a disaster. It's not suitable for enterprise. Enterprise AI is still lagging behind a bit, but you need to do a lot of preparation. The foundational work must be required. As mentioned, the cloud platform, security framework, the data pipeline, the process, and business ontology. How do you really make sure that you have quick wins to sustain? There's a lot of work to be done, right? You cannot just from technology building what we call a data swarm or agent wash, right? It just put a label on whatever used to be a bot, now you call it agent. It doesn't give you much, right? You make it silly, right? So, any case, so we need to integrate to the core banking functions, the corporate functions, right, of line of businesses, right? So, is human judgment no, absolutely not. The rapid deployment of autonomous AI create a natural anxiety, are they going to replace the experts, the team? No. AI can process raw data, unprecedented scale and speed, fundamentally lacks the essential component of banking: context, ethics, and empathy, right? The human judgment intelligence is still not placeable, right? At least not now, right? It's rather amplified, right? So, okay, it's from the ground level, the cost of autonomy, right? We have to learn the lessons. There's still failures to be made, of course. You have people who struggle through. Unless they bump on the wall, they're not going to believe it, right? So the indispensable human premium, right? Emotional nuances. AI cannot comprehend frustrations or rebuild broken client trust, complex judgment. AI is, after all, is artificial intelligence. The real world is way more complex than those kind of probability or logic can handle, right? The human intelligence is still the king, right? Only amplified through AI, right? Ethical oversight cannot bear legal accountability, by the way, right? Whatever accountability or legal implications, moral, doesn't matter, ethical, still the human will bear that, right? So, the great pivot from data wrangler to AI supervisor. Look, that's a huge breakthrough, right? Daily role shift, talking from the ground level, manual executing repetitive tasks, supervising, directing, specialized, like you keep editing your spreadsheet. Right now you could using AI, right? But again, you have to make sure that you know what you're doing, the legacy tasks, what do you need to automate, right? What do you reconcile, what ERP is, fragmented, how to be react if you monitor something, you got a signal out of the noise, right? There's a lot of gap analysis need to be done. Right? Next gen will be deterministic AI building, prompt architecture. I will get in each of these topics in depth, right? Human in the loop, exception handling, strategic workflow orchestration, right? How we're going to do it, right? That's from more technology, the ground level, right? Then the skills, right? What skill do you need to accumulate, to get? You have plenty of training courses, pretty sure, right? But I will go on the job training. You do it, you learn it. You learn whatever you need, right? You will realize you need more, then you learn more, right? So that's my way to deliver, right? To make sure you come along, right? It's not replace you, but to augment you. Okay, make it more kind of higher value in the AI era, right? So, for example, the art of prompt engineering, right? You can talk forever. You can talk to ChatGPT, but the prompting is, many say, is obsolete. It's not, right? You need to. It's like communication. How do you communicate to the AI model, right? can you really communicate effectively with your peers, with your management or senior management in the bank? Think about it. Same thing here. Anybody can interact with the AI model, but how effectively you are communicating with them, right? Remember, you're doing a job. Okay. Same thing there, right? If I ask you to do elevator pitch, right, to your CEO of the bank, how effective are you going to deliver the message, right? I have a complex agentic AI framework. I ask you to take the control panel to command that 100 data agent, the agent. So how effective can you be? You need prompt engineering, not just ask ChatGPT to give you. No, they are able to give you. They don't understand business, right? A lot of nuances you have to accumulate, right? By the way, it's engineering. It's not just a technology thing, right? Engineering meaning skills, right? You need to know your business, right? So essentially, you look at human prompt, coordinator, agent, and credit assessment, and document verification, and think about the application for credit, right? Moving from the manual execution to deterministic instruction, you're no longer writing the syntax or crunching the ledger, but you are doing that high-level logic. Success requires mastering the strict schema adherence, and in short, AI generates strictly flawless and accurate outputs, right? It's quite a skill. And this skill, too, is complex exception handling, right? We all get into the scenario, if this failed or partially error occurred, what do we do? Roll back? Retry? How do we handle different unhappy scenarios, right? If there are multi-steps, if there are parallel kind of execution, if there are batch plus real and near real-time kind of messaging. Same thing here. You have all sorts of agentic frameworks there, different kind of agents. Like, how do you handle it? Not using code anymore, right? You cannot just code another module or serverless, some sort of utility. You need to use agent, right? How do you do that? Okay. It is a new skill. AI coordinator agent will encounter semantic fragmentation or enter the infinite iteration. Loops, right? Thinking forever, paralyzed, right? You have to have the breaker, right? And so data cannot perfectly match. You're a critical human in the loop. You have to take decisive actions quickly. You already step in and evaluate the edge cases, apply contextual banking logic, business, right? Business knowledge, domain knowledge, and resolve the blockage, right? That's a skill, right? So you're commanding an army now, not just pick up the shovel and or picking up a stick and fight, right? No, it's different. You're changing rule. You become the leader. You become the commander. You're commanding the AI agent, right? You have to know it's a new skill, right? You may find uncomfortable initially, but you're going to enjoy it. Skill 3 involves very strict regulatory guardrail, which is why I do a law degree, even though I'm working in engineering. In a tightly regulated industry, you need that, right? Otherwise, you cannot really help the clients, right? There's quite a regulatory quagmire in everywhere. Even the contract, can you read it? Do you understand how to read it? What it means, the terms, conditions there, the clauses, Many contracts, when I review the acquisition merger, this disaster, right? Onboarding a vendor, you write somebody, very highly qualified lawyer. They don't understand what it means, right? They sometimes got into trouble, right? And when I was consulting, you have to give them praises rather than criticizing, because otherwise they'll jump on you to give you a lot of legalese, right? Well, unfortunately, that's the human, right? You have to understand human is the most complex part of the whole equation, right? You're the final line of defense. However, right now, you're not going to consult a lawyer each and every step, right? As AI scales, the risk also scales, right? The operational losses due to external fraud and system failure is going to, increase, right? Your mandate is to actively monitor the data drifts, as I said, bias, ethical or otherwise, ensure the output strictly adhere to our financial industry business ontology. That's why we need to build a business ontology. You need to have policy. You need to have soul and heart, right? That's why two of my products called MaicroSoul and MicroHeart, MicroMinus, right? MicroMeridian. A lot of things you have to entwine together to serve enterprise scale AI, right? Agentic AI, right? Especially validate why an AI made a specific recommendation, explainability, transparency, a glass box rather than black box, right? All right, moving from the theory to practice, right? So zero risk environment, AI sandbox, build muscle memory safety. We have established localized sovereign sandbox environment. These tools operate internal data without access to public APIs and sensitive APIs, allowing to practice AI supervision without operational risk, right? So, in any case, on the job exercise, the prompt, sandbox, right? Objective, can you write one? This exercise 2, hallucination harm. How do you identify them? Train your eye for exception handling. And Agentic KYC, for example, has generated a synthetic pattern detection summary based on the source passport and utility bill. Review the AI generated output step by step. See the reasoning chain, right? The guardrails, can you trace the AI's claim back to the precise vendor chunk, the evidence storage, evidence ground, right? So on the job exercise, the empathy audit, right? Apply human judgment to protect brand reputation. Commercial client is highly frustrated, right, due to the severe transaction delay. The AI has disrupted the rigid, technically accurate, but entirely tone-deaf response, right? They're not human, by the way. Audit AI's dropped and rewrite the communication. They can write very small articles for you nowadays, right? But again, they lack the humanity there. They don't know your client. They don't know your business that well, right? As you do. But you do, right? You have to be there as empathy audit, right? You perform that auditor right now, okay? Switching rules, switching tables, right? You put your heart and soul into it. That's business, right? Unlocking your career trajectory, okay? Mastering AI, vision, and potentially increase your value by shifting from the manual execution, the coding of whatever software tester, right? You become strategic oversight, You become the judge, the command, right? The auditor, right? The boss, right? You unlock capacity to operate in the emerging high-yield banking domains, such as the orchestrating predictive treasury swaps and verifying off-chain assets for the rapidly growing 20 billion institutional real-world market. Right? That's what I mean. It's the long-term part, AI supervising. Okay, if you have that skill, you have a long way to go, right? See? So we're going to continue. It's not replacing bankers, right? That's why I call it macro banker. Even you're part of the workforce is no longer only you, the AI agent. There will be robotic bankers as well, right? Very soon. I have those products, right? If you want to take a look. If you supervise the AI, you're going to replace those who don't, right? Naturally, right? Access the secure internal. We can begin some sort of exercise. You see, attack from the executive, the top level, to the ground, the SMEs, the engineers, right? How you, first of all, for the executive, you need to secure the funding, have quick wins, really long-term strategy build up. I mentioned the banking AI SAFE transformation roadmap. SAFE, stands for solving agentic AI, frameworks and enablers, right? Is a suite, right? MaicroStudio, right? That's what I, going to build it up for you, including the private domain-specific foundational models and also obviously the business ontology, the data pipelines, the infrastructure, all those part and parcel of the offering, right? From the ground, we're not replacing people, we just retrain them, reposition them, take them up, right? Become AI kind of powered engineers, whatever, make them more productive, more valuable, right? Adding to their profile, right? Make sure they are, not left behind, right? That's important to me. In any case, we're going to come back to a lot to talk about, right? It's not just one day we could nail it. No, never been that case, right? So, okay. So the door is open, right? We have to make sure that we benefit the bank, we benefit the executives, we benefit the senior leaders, we also benefit the ground troops on the ground, right? In every corner of the bank, right? All right, we're gonna dive into the quick win business case. How we're gonna build it up, right? How do you implement it? How do you demonstrate result? How do you measure the ROI? Right? We're gonna dive into details. Okay, so yeah, let's continue next time, right? If you look at the numbers, that's what I'm asking for. If you want to invest some capex, some purchase in business cases budget, right? You're going to see cumulative value realized 30 to 50% long-term compute OPEX saving, than you use closed AI, using API from Anthropic, OpenAI, or Microsoft Copilot, right? You're also going to see faster financial the iterative loop, right? As I mentioned, engage, right? Not only I engage you, you need to engage your troops, right? Your vendors, your different part of the bank business, right? Line of business, finance risks, right? Then we need to enable you, right? Build the infrastructure, have the people kind of retrained, and have the data pipeline, have the AI facilities, framework enablers, really plugged in. Right? They're gonna embed into your actual use cases, line of business. Make sure it is actually part of the business fabric. They're going to evolve, scale up, cover more, bring more people in, have a bigger use case, business case, right? Sustain that funding. It's a journey, right? Then we need to periodically evaluate, see where we are, are we making sense or not? Do we need to repivot? What are the mistakes, right? This kind of what I propose, like one hand, 5 step: engage, enable, embed, evolve, and evaluate. Every week you only have 5 days. That's why I give 5 steps. You can divide whichever ways you want. You can say 3 steps, 2 steps. It doesn't matter, right? Just make it simple, right? Very operationally practical and effective, right? You can see results directly. Everything has to be measurable, right? Sometimes benefiting from the first job of the accounting, I need to write down to the minutes or to the hour what is going on, what is the result, right? How much money being transacted, why, who got what, right? That's important especially in an enterprise environment, especially in banks, right? Okay. All right, we're going to continue tomorrow. So we really
人生几何？譬如朝露去日苦读，